I'm going to give you my top 10 tips on how to make it as a professional musician. Let's dig in. So since I started posting on this channel regularly, I've been kind of concentrating on the production side of my work, so I thought I'd maybe do something about my work as a professional musician. I've been a professional musician for 15 years, and what I mean by that is that I've been not only paid to play music, but also it has been my primary source of income for a long time. I've been working in the music industry for 20 years in total as a producer, a DJ, a sound engineer and a guitar player. As a professional musician, I've played up and down the country. I've done weddings, events, birthday parties, pub gigs, everything you can imagine. I've even had an originals band that did pretty well and we're starting to kind of get somewhere. Where I find myself now is that I don't do anything like weddings or parties or private events anymore, but I am playing in a fairly successful rock band called the Dogs D'Amour, and we are regularly touring all over the UK, and this year we're heading over to Europe. So I definitely know a thing or two about being a pro musician. It's in my DNA. I've been doing it for years. I started gigging when I was only 15 years old, so I've been gigging for over 30 years, and as I said, for the last 15 I've been doing it professionally. So before we start, I'm going to ask you the usual things. Can you like, comment, subscribe? I'm really enjoying doing the channel and I've been getting some lovely feedback and I'd love to do more. So here are my top 10 tips to help you become a professional musician. Number 1, don't be a dick. So this is probably the most important thing that you can know. Your reputation is absolutely everything as a professional musician. Remember, you're going to be self-employed, so your reputation and how you work with people is super important. You'll all know the saying, it's a small world, but see, when you become a professional musician, the music world is even smaller. The way that you treat people and the way that you interact with people is unbelievably important. You need to be able to work well with lots of different people, and you also need to be able to work well with people that you might never have even met. I've done loads of gigs in the past with bands that I've never met in my life, and I had to go on, play a great show and have rapport and chemistry right away. The thing is, if you are a dick to people, people talk, and again, as I said, the music world is really small. Word will get around that you treat people badly. And one of the most important things to understand about being a pro musician is that your reputation is absolutely everything. It's people and personalities that will get you work, not just talent. Number 2, don't be late. Now, it sounds really simple, but if you don't turn up on time for a show, that's going to affect your reputation. So if you're booked to be at a sound check for 7 o'clock, you should be arriving at 6:45. You need to build in time for travel, but also for things like traffic jams and accidents, and anything else that might affect you getting to the venue on time. If you still have a day job, then you need to manage that time as well. You need to speak to your boss and ask to get away early, use some flex time, take a half day, take a holiday, but you've got to be there on time. And the thing is, you have to remember that you being late has an effect on loads of different types of people. Not only your band, but the techs and of course the clients as well. If you don't turn up on time, that is going to give you the reputation of someone who's always late, and that's going to affect your ability to get work again. So just be on time. Number 3, don't be a snob. Now the thing about musicians is that we all have a little bit of ego. Of course we do. We're about to stand up in front of people and perform. But snobbery does not do you any favours at all. You are not too good for any gig. I speak to a lot of musicians who turn their nose up at things like weddings and events, but do you know what? They put food on the table. And at the end of the day, your bank manager and your landlord don't care where you get the money from, they just want paid. If you don't like a venue, tough. Like, it doesn't matter. You need to go and play, because a gig is a gig, and every gig that you do gives you a better reputation. And you're not better than any other band on a bill. Every band is just out there trying to do their thing the same as you are. So don't think that you're better than anybody. And again, if you have this snobby attitude, it absolutely affects your reputation, and it's your reputation that's going to get you more gigs. Number 4, don't bitch about people. Look, everybody likes a moan. I've done it myself. But when you're moaning constantly, it creates a really negative atmosphere for folk to work in. And that kind of starts a bit of a chain reaction, because you bitch one week, and then you bitch the next, and then suddenly that's the thing that you do every week. And it's a terrible place to be. I used to work for an agency years ago, and I got loads and loads of gigs out of it, as did hundreds of other musicians. But all anyone ever did was bitch about the owner. And that just meant that those gigs were not fun, because it was just negative from start to finish. All we were doing is bitching about this guy constantly. Everybody was having digs, and It was fun at first, but all of a sudden it just became an absolute chore to do these gigs. But the thing is, when you start bitching about people in the music world, word gets around. You might be bitching to someone, and that person might know the person that you're actually bitching about. It's actually happened to me before. Someone came to me with a job. I said, yeah, I'll do it, but that guy's a bit of a dick. And it turns out that the guy who was offering me the work was really good friends with him, and I never got any more work from that person. Just remember, word gets around, okay? Your reputation and the way that you deal with people and the way you speak about people is absolutely paramount. Don't do it behind people's backs because someone could be listening, and then all of a sudden the work dries up. Number 5, know your limits. Now, this could be a pretty big conversation. There's lots of things that I could talk about here, but I'm actually talking about one thing that is really, really prevalent in music, and that is drugs and alcohol. We all know that drugs and alcohol are everywhere in music, and that's fine. I would be a hypocrite if I criticised people for doing it. But you need to still be able to do your job. The thing is, it's only rock and roll if you can handle it. And if you can't handle it and you can't do your job and you've got a few pints in you, then again, that's your reputation ruined. I kind of liken it to pool playing logic. If you've ever played pool in a bar, you know that there's a kind of limit where you have a few drinks and you're absolutely on fire. But as soon as you go past that limit, your game's gone. And I think it's exactly the same with music. I know my limits on stage. I know I can have a few drinks, and I know when I've had too much. And if I feel myself going too far, then I'm going to have to stop because I know it's going to affect my gigs. I've played on stage drunk as fuck, and it's never good. Now, the one thing I will say is I'm not encouraging anybody to be doing drugs or alcohol. I'm just recognising that it's a part of the music industry. But honestly, you've got to know your limits. There's been loads of examples where I've seen people push those limits and they just fall down, sometimes literally. I can remember being in the studio with a band and one of the guitar players thought it was all rock and roll to be drinking, and he started drinking at 9 a.m. and by the time he got to do his own parts later in the afternoon, he was useless. And then there was another session where our singer thought it would be a great idea to do ketamine before recording his vocals. He went off to the bathroom, took the ketamine, went through to the room, stood in front of the mic and hit the floor. He got sacked from that band. So as I said, I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything, but what I am saying is if you are going to do these things, you need to take responsibility, you need to be able to do your job. If you can't do it, stay sober. Number 6, be prepared. So again, this should be a pretty obvious one, but I do know lots of musicians who rock up to a gig trying to wing it. Some people can get away with it, some people can't. In fact, most people can't. It's really important to know what you're doing well in advance. You need to put in the practice before your gig and make sure you know what you're doing. It's absolutely okay to write stuff down as well. I do chord sheets for absolutely everything I do. I know lots of musicians that think that this is a bit of a failing on their part, but that's absolute bullshit. Write it down. Make sure you know what's happening. Have it at the side of the stage just in case. And the other thing is that depending on the type of gig you do, it doesn't always have to be exactly like the record. Yeah, there's going to be some gigs where you're expected to play exactly what's on record, and that's absolutely fine, but there's lots of gigs where you have a bit of artistic interpretation, and that's totally cool. But one thing you should know is the structure of the song. The band should always be changing together, and if you don't know the structure, that's a recipe for disaster, and I've seen it happen loads. And on that note, you should also make sure that everyone is using the right versions of a song. I've done loads and loads of weddings, and one of the most popular songs to play is Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, and there's 2 versions of it, a single version and an album version. And I've been on stage where people have been playing one version and others have been playing the other version, and again, it just falls on its arse. Know what you're doing. Number 7, sound good. So I'm not saying that you need to have boutique level gear to be a pro musician, but your gear does need to sound good. And the thing is, it's such a great time to be alive because we've got access to really, really well priced, high quality instruments. And whilst you don't have to have the best gear, it does need to be well maintained. It needs to function well, it needs to do the job it's set out to do. You should be regularly changing your strings, changing your skins on your drum kit, keeping your voice in check, looking after yourself. All these things are super important and add up to you sounding good and sounding professional. And make sure that everything works before your gig. If you've got a new toy, the stage is not the place for you to figure out how to work it. So when you rock up to a gig, you should be confident that everything is well maintained, in tune, functioning correctly, and you know how to use it and you know that it sounds good already. If you can't afford to pay someone to maintain your instrument, then you should learn how to do it yourself. I've got so many guitars, it's completely impractical for me to pay a tech to set it up every few months, so I've learned how to do it myself. Check out Paul Richards' amazing channel Milehouse Studios for amazing tips on how to maintain your guitar yourself. And he's a massive advocate of you being able to take a good quality guitar and make it amazing. Number 8, social media is your friend. So, like it or loathe it, social media is absolutely essential when you're a professional musician. So just deal with it. Fact is, I'm doing these videos as a way to promote myself. I'm not actually trying to be an influencer here, although I wouldn't mind Mr. Beast's money. But what I'm doing is I'm using social media and I'm using YouTube to draw people to me, to give them an insight in how I work, and hopefully that translates to people wanting to work with me. So you should know what platforms work for you. Personally, I don't use TikTok because I'm nearly 50 years old and my audience don't use TikTok. I use Instagram and I use Facebook and of course I use YouTube. I have figured out where my audience is using analytics on social media, so you should do the same. Now, it can feel really overwhelming posting regularly on social media, but actually one thing you can do is just take one night and create a load of content. I've spent 3 hours in a night recording reels for social media and I've ended up with months worth of regular content. It's really easy to do. You should set up a schedule for posting, and also you should find out when the best times for your platform is to post on. If you don't know, just Google it, it's dead easy to find out. And again, you can work smart as well. For example, as I say, I tend to work on Instagram and Facebook, but actually I only post on Instagram, because Instagram feeds into my Facebook automatically, so it's a 2-for-1. And again, if you don't like social media, sorry, it's just a part of it. You just need to get behind it, okay? Number 9, stay current. You need to know what's going on in the music industry and particularly your local scene. It's important to try and stay ahead of the curve, but if you can't stay ahead of it, at least know what's happening. You shouldn't be pushing outdated practices. I loved MySpace. It was amazing for bands, but it's gone and I'm not going to try and do the same thing. Just because you were in a band 20 years ago doesn't mean to say all the things you did back then will work now. The music industry is constantly changing and you've got to change with it. Embrace new tech. I know there's a big thing with AI at the moment, but AI can be useful for some things, just not creating music from scratch. You need to keep an eye on your local venues. See what venues are doing well. See what venues are sadly shutting down, because in the UK, lots of venues are shutting down right now and you need to keep on top of that. There was a situation recently where I was booked to play a venue and sadly it shut down. I found that out because I saw it on social media and I communicate with people. If I didn't know that, I would have turned up to that venue to find the door shut. And you should also talk to your peers, talk to other music industry professionals, find out what they're doing, find out what they're struggling with, what they're doing well with. You've got to keep up to date. It's unbelievably important. Number 10, work hard. So the sad reality is that you've got to work twice as hard to make half as much money in music. If you've got friends that work in a bank or work in a call centre, they will probably be earning more money than you. But here's the thing, you're going to be a lot happier being a musician. But you have to get yourself into a good groove as a musician. You have to have a good work ethic. Sounds a bit boring, it sounds completely un-rock and roll, but actually it's the truth. So when you don't have work, you don't have a gig, then you need to be taking advantage of that free time and not just sitting on the PlayStation. So if you don't have a gig, you could be practicing, you could be working on your social media, you could be reaching out to other bands, you could be reaching out to promoters, management, you could be doing stuff to bring work in. Again, I'm doing YouTube. You can also use the time to research new tools, new practices, new venues, new anything. But don't just sit on your arse because you don't have a gig. Go out and make work happen. It is hard to do that and I struggle with it myself. I try to post on social media regularly. I try to make these videos every single week. It can be really tough, but it's the thing that's going to draw people to you. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that, and I know that it might feel like I'm just wagging my finger at you, but I've been a professional musician for a long time and I have been around musicians for most of my life. I do understand what it takes. It's hard sometimes, but it can be done. You've got to have discipline, you've got to have relationships, and you've got to collaborate well with folk. Again, reputation is absolutely everything. If you want to know more about what I do as a musician, put a comment down below. I'm always happy to do videos if I can. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Oh, like, subscribe, comment, please.